Gal Gadot sparks protest on her new film set. Jackie Chan in the news, and the EU wanting to levy taxes against Google and other social media giants. You're live with the guy every day at 12 noon Central. And we got Nat over here on the mic doing the switcherboard and reading articles, giving us a free education.
Hello.
Okay, let's get right into it. Let's start actually... I wanted to bury the Gal Gadot a little bit because there's some interesting factors with that. But let's go into Germany seeks to levy a 10% tax on platforms like Google.
Sure. Oh, hold on.
Oh, okay. Well,
Getting mad at me.
Oh, what's getting mad at you?
The article.
Okay, well, you grab another article. I'll start talking about this a little bit. There is a big freedom of speech rift going on between the United States, Germany, the EU, and the UK. The UK, the EU, and Germany, obviously on one side, the US on the other. Marco Rubio came out with a huge statement yesterday saying he would ban politicians from entering the U.S. that are seeking to levy fines like this on the U.S. So it's going to be interesting to see if German politicians are going to be able to enter the U.S. at any point in the near future. Also, Facebook, Google, and a few of the other big tech giants have previously been levied billion-dollar fines, hundreds of million-dollar fines, but they total into the billions because they keep fining them over and over for different for different reasons, like not censoring speech and things like that. Hate speech is illegal in a lot of EU countries, so they're levying massive fines on Google and Facebook and things like that. Do we have the article now?
I have to bring it up. Give me 1 second.
Okay, wait, bring it up. I'm a little bit out of focus today, I'm noticing as well.
Do you want me to fix it?
No, we'll let the people enjoy the blurriness, I guess.
So we're going to see something different, and then I'll bring it up.
Okay, we're just waiting on the producer. There we go.
Because I had to change the formatting. So Germany seeks to levy 10% tax on online platforms like Google. Germany is considering a 10% tax on large online platforms like Alphabet's Google and Meta's Facebook, its new culture minister told magazine Stern, in a move likely to heighten trade tensions with the Trump administration. The proposal comes as Chancellor Friedrich Merz is expected to travel to Washington soon to meet U.S. President Trump, although a trip has not yet been officially announced. Trump has in the past said he will not allow foreign governments to appropriate America's tax base for their own benefit.
Yeah, and this is interesting. He's planning to go over to the U.S., but they just announced he's not welcome in the U.S. because of fines like this, where they're trying to censor free speech. Now, it hasn't been implemented yet, so maybe they'll let him in. Also, this is a way for Germany and the EU to put these levies and taxes on the table to really have more negotiating leverage against the U.S. with these future tariff negotiations. Trump's claiming he's going to put 50% on the EU. Obviously, he's going to start high, go low. It would probably end up being around, I'm guessing, 20%. I think the UK will get a better deal than the EU got. Oh, where's my producer going?
You're going to try to focus.
No, I don't need to focus. I need you on the articles. Okay, now we're going into the next article here, and that's going to be Jackie Chan jokes he'll be 100 years old by the time he makes Rush Hour 4. Can we grab that? I don't want you focusing me. I just want you to grab the articles, please. Okay, I just want you to grab the articles. Thank you. Okay, so we talked a little bit about Jackie Chan yesterday, and that was the new Karate Kid is coming out. It doesn't look like it's getting the best reviews. It has been set up, so it should have been a big hit, but Lilo and Stitch is there. They seem to make some fatal flaws. They had made a ton of good calls with this thing, putting legacy characters in, putting Jackie Chan in. And the YouTube series, The Karate Kid, did fairly well in recent times. So it has a modern audience, it has a traditional audience. Okay, let's read a little bit of the article here.
So Jackie Chan jokes he'll be 100 years old making Rush Hour 4. With Jackie Chan reprising one of his beloved roles for Karate Kid Legends, the actor is ready to revisit more franchises. The honorary Oscar winner recently commented on the long-gestating Rush Hour 4, for which he reassured he'll still be interested in reuniting with co-star Chris Tucker more than 25 years after the original. I don't know, asked the director, asked the studio, asked the writer, he told Screen Rant, hurry up, otherwise Chris Tucker and me will be 100 years old. We'll be old men doing Rush Hour.
Okay. And you said you hadn't watched this movie, correct?
No.
This was during my time. Rush Hour Part 1 was a classic. It is what made Chris Tucker, other than the Friday movie. Those two movies is what made his career. Since then, he's fallen off. He's not nearly as funny as he used to be. He was the comedic support that really drew in the audience. I mean, he was unbelievably funny in the first Rush Hour. Every Rush Hour that comes out after that, he gets less and less and less funny. I'm not that interested in actually seeing this, but I mean, we'll see if they do make it. I think they will, because it harkens back to a time in cinema where they could appeal to moderate audiences. But you probably have nothing to say about this because you haven't seen Rush Hour.
No, I'm not not that I don't like him, but I just don't know much about Jackie Chan in general.
Yeah.
Because I'm a girl, I guess.
I like Jackie Chan because he does all of his own stunts, and studios are really promoting actors and actresses that are starting to do their own stunts, like Tom Cruise, like Florence Pugh is her name?
Yeah, and during Wonder Woman, during Black Widow.
What was it? Oh, so this would be a good opportunity for the studios to really do a lot of the behind the scenes and highlight Jackie Chan, not only doing his own stunts for Rush Hour 4, but he was one of the original people that were doing his own stunts. He's the one that kind of made that genre of I'm an action hero and I do my own stunts. Therefore, I'm a real action hero. Okay, let's go into the next article, and this is somewhat political of an article, but it still has to do with the studios and things like this.
So Paramount offers millions to Trump to end 20 billion 60-minute suit and lets Skydance merger go through. Donald Trump and Paramount don't have a deal yet to settle the president's months-old 20 billion 60 minutes lawsuit, but the Shari Redstone-ruled media company has put some serious millions on the table in the hopes to make this roadblock to a merger with Skydance disappear.
Okay, I don't think this payoff they're trying to make to Trump is going to work. This has to do with the 60 Minutes interview they did with Kamala Harris and some other interviews segments they did where they misrepresented things that Trump had said, and they had also falsely edited the Kamala Harris interview, which really had election interference and things like this to do with it. This is, I believe, a $20 billion lawsuit, $20 billion lawsuit potential. And because of the name of the figures, you can easily maybe get to 20 billion or at least 1 or 2 billion. So I don't think he's going to settle for millions. I also think he wants to send a message through this lawsuit to every other media company, every other news organization, to Disney, to CBS, to ABC. He wants to make it clear you need to go back to being moderate, being in the middle, not putting the media on the hands of the scale and things like this.
Yes, and do actual journalism.
And
I think the suit is more important than whatever money he could be offered. He's not in it for the money. He don't need the money. He needs to prove a point.
Well, he's not only not in it for the money, and the reason I definitely think he won't take millions when he's suing for billions. Billions sends a message. Millions doesn't. He's out to win the suit. So he's got a team of crack lawyers that are already costing him millions. So why would he settle for the price of his lawyers? Has nothing to do with money. This has everything to about sending a message, and sending a message probably before the midterms. Because if the media tries to tip the scales in the midterms, it could have an effect, especially if there's a big false flag or black flag event before the midterms. So this will be interesting to keep an eye on, but this has a lot to do with the merger of Paramount and Skydance, and that's going into the next article, which thank you just brought up. Let's read the headline.
Skydance's, I'm guessing you say 9/12 or 9/12 series starring Jeremy Strong on hold, eyes 2026 start amid uncertainty over Paramount merger approval due to the suit.
Yeah, and I'm less concerned about this series and Jeremy Strong. I actually don't even know who Jeremy Strong is, but I kind of brought this up to talk about everything with Paramount and Skydance is going to be put on hold right now because of this potential merger that needs to get done. If that lawsuit doesn't get done, the merger doesn't get done. So Trump's really hitting them from both ends. They're losing tens of millions of dollars every month by not being able to put these shows into production because they don't know if one of these companies may collapse, one of them may go under. They really need this merger to happen. And it's obvious at this point they need this merger to happen. So Trump just going forward with the lawsuit, even if he doesn't win, dramatically hurts Paramount and Skydance. Yes. I asked you if you knew who Jeremy Strong was, and you seem to know who he was.
He's in a lot of, let's just say, LGBTQ media.
Yep.
And has the same political opinions as all of the Hollywood elites. He's actually been an actor for quite a long time.
And I would expect everything, or at least a large portion of things from Paramount and Skydance to be put on hold. So if you hear any announcements or anything, I wouldn't expect those to go forward until maybe 2026, 2027. So that's huge because they need to film now for the things they need in 2026. If this keeps getting delayed, they're not going to have content until 2027. Their only option at that point is going to be to try to go buy up content from independent creators and things like that, or film festivals. And just by the way, buying up independent content right now is becoming harder and harder because all these streaming companies are really trying to buy up the independent content from film festivals. A name like Netflix or an Amazon will literally go into something like a Sundance Film Festival and just buy up all the films at once, just so other competitors won't have the ability to buy any content. Okay, let's go into Peter Kwong. Oh, this was an interesting story, actually. And on the headline, it doesn't sound interesting to many people probably. But I did my film recommendation yesterday. I'm doing older films that I kind of recommend people may not have heard of or haven't seen in a while. And I had recommended Big Trouble in Little China with Kurt Russell. And I mentioned all of the really big Asian actors in America got their start in that movie, and it was a huge jumping off platform for them. I turn on the news today and I see Peter Kwong, who played Rain in Big Trouble in Little China, dies at 73. What a coincidence that was. So why don't you read a little bit?
Stop mentioning movies. Sadly, Peter Kwong passes away. Passed away in his sleep Tuesday night, pretty young. I mean, he was 73. No further details were shared. Kwong, Sacramento, California native, began his career as a TV actor in the late 70s and 80s with stints in shows like The A-Team, Wonder Woman, Little House on the Prairie, Miami Vice, The Greatest American Hero, Cagney and Lacey, Dynasty, MacGyver, and 227. That's essentially a list of recommendations as well.
And those are all A-list series, A-list movies back in the 80s. I mean, this guy was big for an Asian actor, and it was hard at that time for Asian actors to break through. And when they did, they kind of used the same actor for everything. Yeah. And that's why he was so recognizable. I mainly put him in here because it was a major coincidence that I had recommended Big Trouble in Little China, and then he appeared in the news today. Can you keep reading some of the article? I kind of put it in there, but I hadn't read through the whole article.
Also in 1986, Kwong starred in Never Too Young to Die with John Stamos and Vanity, as well as The Golden Child with Eddie Murphy and Charles Dance. Kwong was just as active in Hollywood behind the camera as he was in front of it. He was on the SAG National Board of Directors for more than 10 years. He was also a member of the AFTRA National Board of Directors. He also served on the Television Academy Board of Governors, as well as the Actors Branch Executive Committee of the AMPA.
Oh, wow. He was really behind the scenes. He was really pulling a lot of strings and had a lot of power too. I didn't know that about his behind the camera dealings and studio dealings. So that's pretty interesting. The Golden Child with Eddie Murphy was mentioned in there. That was a really good classic movie as well. That was when Eddie Murphy was extremely funny before he went into all these selling out, making all these Disney movies that are kind of made him roll his humor back so he couldn't be quite as raunchy or quite as forward with what he was saying. He was the original comedian where everything he would say would get you canceled today. So
I only knew him when I was little because of Dr. Dolittle.
Yeah,
I really liked that movie.
Oh, you did
when
like
I was
it.
little, yeah.
I hated him because if you knew Eddie Murphy from his movies back in the 80s, he was a completely different actor. Since Dr. Dolittle, the Nutty Professor, things like that, it was like a milquetoast version of Eddie Murphy. And then he had a bunch of scandals and things like this. But why don't we go back into Big Trouble in Little China? And I talked about this yesterday on our night show, but the movie I recommend on the night show, I'll talk about the next day on the day show, which this is it, Big Trouble in Little China. If you haven't seen this movie, this is back from, I believe, the 80s. It looks like an 80s movie, but it really set the tone between mixing genres. It used humor, action, and fantasy. That's part of the reason it failed at the box office when it came out. It was a $25 million budget and only made $11 million at the box office. That being said, after it was done its box office run, it became a cult classic and it easily made its money back. Kurt Russell was a child star before this, so people knew who he was. But as an adult actor, this was one of the big movies that did make him. What else was I going to say about this? Oh, this had all practical stunts in it. The critics really were hard on this movie because it mixed genres. And at that time, you didn't mix genres, or you very rarely mix genres in movies. So critics were really confused, gave it bad reviews, which trickled down to the audience. And it really did hinder the box office. But to this day, anybody that's a fan of movies knows this movie. And I would say, what was the Disney movie I was talking yesterday about Ryan Reynolds in? Why can't I remember?
Deadpool.
Oh, Deadpool. Deadpool really takes a page out of this movie where it mixes action and comedy, and it mixes it fairly well. I would say Kurt Russell has similar type of humor for the 80s to what Ryan Reynolds had in Deadpool. So I highly recommend it. If you haven't seen it, definitely take a look at it. It's something to kind of give homage to the past, I guess. Okay, let's go into the next article.
So now for actual news. 5 arrested at protests at Gal Gadot filming.
Oh, you got a better article than I did because the article that I had read this morning was just protests at the new Gal Gadot movie that was filming. Mm-hmm. I didn't realize they had actually arrested him.
So 5 protesters have been arrested after they allegedly targeted the filming of Gal Gadot's new movie in central London. Demonstrators have disrupted filming at various locations across London in recent weeks, the Metropolitan Police said. The force said the film was targeted solely because an actress involved in the production is Israeli. The Palestinian Campaign for the Academic and Cultural Boycott of Israel, PACB, had previously said Gadot films should be boycotted, claiming she has shown support for Israel's military campaign in Gaza and the occupied West Bank.
And I was just going to tell you, and the audience can know as well, when we read Israel in the future, let's leave the word out. YouTube tends to throttle anything that mentions that country's name for some reason.
Okay, I'll say rail.
Yeah, just say something.
Do I keep going?
Yeah.
The 40-year-old actress, who has been vocal in her support of its space rail, served in the Defense Force for 2 years. The country requires most of its citizens to compulsorily serve in the military from the age of 18. She is believed to currently be filming action thriller The Runner. Police were deployed to the filming location in Westminster on Wednesday to identify suspects wanted in connection with offences at earlier protests and to deal with any new offences, Scotland Yard said.
Okay, and I really do like Gal Gadot, other than her accent. Yeah. Her accent really kills it for her.
And her acting in Snow White was horrible.
Her acting in Snow White was horrible. But overall, if she could have got past the accent, I think she would have been a much bigger star. She was formerly in the military, so it makes her believable to put her in action roles. She's also very tall because she used to be a model. So if you're going to put a female in an action role, it also at least makes it somewhat believable. Yes. The problem is her accent absolutely bothers me in every movie she's in. In Wonder Woman, they worked around it probably the best of any movie that could, but it was still very, very evident.
But in Wonder Woman, it also made sense for her to have an accent because she was like not an alien, but this like otherworldly Amazonian woman, and then from an island of Amazonian women. That there you can believe, oh yeah, sure, she has an accent because she's not fully human.
Yeah, I think she would have been a lot bigger if she could have just got rid of the accent, but she wasn't able to do it. She's still well known in a lot of movies, but it's interesting that they're really following her around to films. Like, how are they even knowing this is filming? How are they knowing she's in it?
I mean, come on, a lot of them are probably in the film industry.
Yeah, my guess is people that are on that film set are informing protesters that she's in this movie that they're filming, because typically the star's name aren't even on the trailers. They use a different name for the movie while they're filming to kind of keep this stuff secret. They knew there was going to be protest or something like this if her name got out, because there was protest at all of her premieres, and they had to cancel her from doing the Snow White premieres at one point.
Yeah, but a lot of like lower level, let's just say, people within the film industry also have access to knowing a lot more information. And I'm guessing a lot of those those protesters are themselves in the film industry as well, and that's how they got the information.
Yeah, and everybody kind of knows my view on the Palestinian war that's going on there, and that's, I think America just should stay out of it. They shouldn't fund Israel. Same thing with the Russian war. Let the local conflicts be local conflicts. The U.S. doesn't have to get involved in everything, and that's just the way I see it.
What do you think of the people that go protest and try to do demonstrations in countries that are not either space Israel or Palestine?
I mean, that's what protesters are going to do. I have a show where I talk politics and things like that, and I give my views, so I can't really go against it. But a lot of the Palestinian protests are like a lot of the other radical, progressive leftist protests, where they're getting violent, and there was no consequences for years if they did get violent at these protests. I mean, when we were in Vancouver, we would go out to these protests, interview people, basically take some footage. And if there was a small counter protest, they would always ask the non-progressive protesters to leave the area. And they would not just ask them. I mean, they would force them and arrest them if they didn't, which is, it's supposed to be freedom. If it's freedom of protest, both groups have the right to be there.
Yes.
Do you have anything more to say about this, or?
I mean, she has been vocal about it, so I guess there's not super vocal either, but I guess there's, some reasoning over protesting it. But I just think they're getting ridiculous, and also a lot of these protests are paid. A lot of the protesters are bought and paid for by big NGOs that nobody knows about. One
of the big ways to tell if a protest is bought and paid for are look at the flags. If the flags still have crease lines in a large portion of the flags, those things were just passed out that day by somebody that's usually funding it. If all the signs look very similar and they're printed out at a print shop, also there's funding behind that particular protest. So. She's talked about it a little bit, but she used to actually be in the military there, but she's kept fairly quiet overall about it. You'll see her here or there, but not like other stars coming out in favor of the other side. Also, she has kids, and the last film that she was on, I believe it was Snow White, they had to pay for security for her because she has kids. So, and she was more worried about her kids' safety than her own safety, I believe. Okay, let's continue to go here. The next story is the avocado story, and the headline caught my attention, and I was gathering stories. I didn't have a chance to read it, so why don't we get into it together?
California avocado growers say Mexican imports have helped their sales. You love avocados. I hate avocados because I am from Mexico, so I was fed them all throughout my life, and I got bored of them. Andres Tompros lost his home and at least a third of his avocado orchard to a wildfire last year, but the 47-year-old grower is not worrying about his farm making a comeback. When California farmers often rattle off a list of challenges they face, including high labor costs, water restrictions, and overseas competition, many avocado growers say they have a good thing going. A key reason may come as a surprise to some: Mexican imports. When the United States lifted its ban on Mexican avocados in 1997, California growers worried at first that the imported fruit would displace their production, but the steady flow of avocados has wound up helping, not hurting their sales, by allowing for a year-round supplies to markets and restaurants. That has fomented demand, farmers say. Before the influx, most American consumers considered avocados to be specialty items, and when they came into season in California, industry officials had to work to rev up widespread interest in order to sell them, but not anymore.
Okay, so that's very interesting because they couldn't produce them all year round. Here you get them all year round, and I absolutely love them. It's the main staple of my diet. I use it rather than sauces and things like that.
So this is basically a hit piece against the tariffs.
Yeah.
Is what it is. They're saying, oh, you're not going to get avocados anymore if we can't import them from Mexico. Then they're saying farmers within California can't themselves just sustain the whole industry within the U.S.
But the whole avocado market is really a very dirty market. So it's controlled by organized crime and things like that internationally, here in Mexico and in the United States as well.
Yes.
There is a big influence within the avocado market in organized crime, and people don't realize this. Also, the avocado market in California, if they want to sustain supplies, not just because of tariffs, they're going to need to get their avocados from Mexico because pretty soon California is not going to be able to produce these. They're having major water issues unless they get British Columbia and Alberta to kind of break off to the United States or as independent provinces. Then maybe they're going to have options for water. But water is drying up in California, and it's been completely mismanaged, much like a lot of their other infrastructure grids in California.
And the wildfires.
And the wildfires are a complete mismanagement of the government. They didn't do controlled burns. They didn't do forest cleaning. And so when you had man-made fires started, they would just burn up large portions of the state.
And here, I mean, I haven't continued to read on, but it does seem like they're trying to say, oh, because of Trump and his tariffs on Mexican imports, you won't be able to get avocados. I don't know if there's a specific exemption for avocados. I'm guessing probably he'd want to do one, but...
Yeah, I don't know. I think he's in negotiations with Mexico, and he's going to leave everything on the table. He's not going to offer any exemptions up front. So same thing that is kind of happening with the EU. He's going to start high, put it there. But so far, all the little tidbits that we've been getting out from the Trump administration, not from just Donald Trump, but other people within the administration, Claudia Sheinbaum's been working fairly close with the U.S. government. So I would expect a fairly good deal to come out of Mexico and the United States on the tariff front. I mean, there's been a lot of leaks. We've reported on a lot of them. Now, I do understand Claudia Sheinbaum likes to talk tough once in a while, but she has to placate her base so she doesn't lose support. But overall, behind the scenes, she seems to be working fairly close with the Trump administration, although she has made some pretty dramatic statements, but actions speak louder than words. So, okay, let's go into the Chinese story now. And China launches spacecraft.
Yeah, so apparently China launches a spacecraft. It says will return samples and yield groundbreaking discoveries. Hopefully it won't explode on its way out or in.
Yeah, and I kind of wanted to read a little bit about this if we could.
Sure. China launched a spacecraft that promises to return samples from an asteroid near Mars and yield groundbreaking discoveries and expand humanity's knowledge of the cosmos, the country's space agency said. The Tianwen-2 probe launched early yesterday from southern China aboard the Workshore Long March 3B rocket. The probe will collect samples from the asteroid 2016H03 and explore the main belt comet 311P, which lies farther from the Earth than Mars, according to China National Space Administration. Zhang Zhongde, head of CNSA, was quoted saying the Tianwen-2 mission represents a significant step in China's new journey of interplanetary exploration, and over its decades-long mission, it will yield groundbreaking discoveries. Blah blah blah.
Well, that was pretty interesting when you wrote it. I look at that as a little bit different. That is a major flex from China if they're able to pull this off. They're not trying to go to a moon or a stationary planet. They're going to, what did it say, a comet?
Asteroid.
Oh, they're going to an asteroid.
And a belt comet. Yeah.
They're going to go to an asteroid and a belt comet. These are moving objects. They're going to have to land on this and then take off from there. This is not just like landing on a major planet, which is, exactly where it's going to be.
Well, but these things are really big. Comets are huge.
I don't think I haven't heard of any U.S. mission similar to this, and the fact that they're not just going to go to it, but they're planning to actually retrieve things off of the surface and come back with it is actually if they're able to manage it, is the next step in Chinese space travel. And I really like Chinese space travel. The main reason is NASA was at the forefront of space travel for a long time, and their money was completely mismanaged, and they barely space travel kind of stagnated after the moon landing and things like this. It took Elon Musk to come into the space to really push space travel forward to the next level. And with a major competitor like China, this creates a rivalry equal to something like what the free market kind of does. It pushes one competitor to be better than the other. If there was nobody to kind of challenge Elon Musk, he wouldn't have to keep pressing forward with his space travel technology and things like this. Mm-hmm. And China is the second major competitor. The United States is extremely concerned about them. We're just lucky right now they don't have rockets that can launch and re-land like SpaceX.
And it is reminiscent of the space wars from the space race wars from
Russia and China.
Yes, from Russia and the U.S.
Whether they actually landed on the moon or they didn't, I don't know. But I am going to say that competition between Russia and China really propelled...
Russia and America
really propelled the space race forward at that time, because they were definitely launching dogs and monkeys and humans into space.
Which I don't know if I'm super okay with them launching a dog, but...
Well...
What was her name?
At the time, they didn't know...
Laika.
At the time, they didn't know if it was safe for human beings. So
yeah, but they sent up a dog called Laika to end essentially what happened was the dog ran out of oxygen and then burnt up.
And that's why they didn't
cruel.
See the human.
That's really mean. I don't know.
Okay, I was watching a documentary last night, a little bit off subject, about a chimpanzee that was named Oliver that they thought had human chromosomes, and that it was a new kind of chimpanzee. Yeah, this was back in the 70s. And they had done multiple genetic tests. They were somewhat inconclusive, but they recently found him, and he was in a cage for 9 years. They sold him to a science research center. It was kind of sad, but one of the original owners or people that wanted to buy him originally came in and bought him, and now he's blind, and they put him in a sanctuary for the end of his life, which was nice. But they did genetic tests when they brought him to the sanctuary, and it was found that he was a chimpanzee, but he was a new kind of breed of chimpanzee. He walked upright and things like this.
Maybe new or undiscovered, who knows? But I am against animal testing.
Oh, definitely.
A lot of people try to excuse it by saying, well, but otherwise, how do we know things are safe and etc. Especially nowadays, we do have the technology to mimic at least human skin or whatever you're trying to test. So it's, and I know China still does it, and there's a lot of, for example,
America still does it.
Yes, America still does it for medicine, but in China, a lot of companies, makeup and beauty companies, do so on animals still, and a lot of people won't buy from them, and I'm one of them.
What's I gonna say? Oh, what were you saying? Where'd you start that conversation?
Animal testing.
Oh, animal testing.
The chimpanzee, poor baby.
Oh, yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I'm okay with animal testing as long as it's on like rodents and things like that. You're gonna have to do some kind of testing.
They have the technology now to mimic. I mean, if they're saying they can grow organs now out of stem cells, and they're trying to do that, if they're trying to create human life and babies from stem cells, then they can find a way to mimic skin or whatever.
Yeah, I'm not for dogs or orangutans or bigger.
But rodents are very smart.
Animals. Yeah, but you're gonna have to.
If they're doing intelligence tests on them without like actually damaging their organs, sure.
The testing Fauci was doing on dogs was unreprehensible. Yes, he should be locked up for that, let alone what he did with the jibby jab. But the beagles is insane.
What was it? He put the beagles, their heads in boxes, I believe, and then they let them get bit up by ticks.
I don't want to talk about it. It just upsets me. Okay.
Any animal. I think even rats. It's mean.
Let's go into the next story. And the next story was pretty big. It was about the education system. And I was debating with some people the other day about what's actually going on with the education system. So let's read the article and then we'll get into it.
So this is from Robbie Starbuck. He's been trying to... he's an activist and a journalist who's trying to show and prove all of the DEI and ridiculousness within companies. diversity, equity, inclusion, which is not what they paint it as. So it says insanity. San Francisco plans to implement a destructive new grading for equity system in as many as 14 high schools starting this fall.
And this is how you make your country stupider, not smarter. So like Trump's trying to weed out policies like this. And this is why they want to get rid of DEI policies. They don't want to have special exemptions for people into college. They want it to be based on your grades and your meritocracy. So when you do get into the college, you don't find it too difficult and then drop out. And then you have huge financial loans that you're responsible for. Okay, you can go ahead.
Robbie Starbuck says this is the definition of insanity. DEI must DIE.
Okay, I want you to read the whole thing here.
Okay. Grading for equity eliminates homework or weekly tests from being counted in a student's final semester grade. All that matters is how the student scores on a final examination, which can be taken multiple times. Students can be late turning in assignment or showing up to class or not showing up at all without it affecting their academic grade. Currently, a student needs a 90 for an A and at least a 61 for a D under the San Leandro Unified School District's grading for equity system touted by San Francisco Unified School District and its consultant. A student with a score as low as 80 can attain an A and as low as 21 can pass with a D.
Yeah, and this is why is this actually happening? Because there is a huge backlash about DEI admittances into college, which I kind of just talked about, and people getting into college based upon their skin color, not their meritocracy, and they're not able to hit minimal standards in college, so they get big student loans and then they drop out, and then they're in major financial debt. What they're trying to do here is, because they got rid of the major DEI policies in colleges, they want to change the grading standards at the lower grades, so everybody's basically going to get an A. And then you're still going to have really stupid people going into college and then having to drop out because they can't keep up with the minimal standard.
Yes.
So,
and it's also the I'm having the same issue. Okay, keep talking while I think about it.
Yeah, just overall, like you're gonna fall behind China and Russia. Russia focuses on STEM. They create more. They turn out more researchers and things like this than almost any other country, and they're a much smaller country. China and Russia are going to fill that vacuum. China's invested a lot into the university system as of recent, so China's looking to emerge as the new power within the education system. I just don't think their education system is that great right now, but we'll see if they can really start to advance if the United States starts implementing stupid policies like this.
I remembered my point.
Okay.
I was going to say, right now, the U.S. is actually really low with their education standards. And the people that keep yelling about, that he wants to completely erase the Department of Education, this is horrible, he wants everybody to be stupid. No, the Department of Education themselves, for the past 30 decades or more, has tried to make the American public stupider and stupider by lowering standards, by starting to move towards these new systems of, it's essentially the soft bigotry of low expectations, where because some students are doing poorly, those students come from disadvantaged backgrounds, then let's make it not try to help them improve and make their merit worth of anything, but rather bring everybody else down to the level that is worrying.
Yeah, it's just this.
And by saying, they can't achieve anything better because of their background. No, help them achieve something better and help them pull them up instead of bringing everybody else down.
And especially in elementary schools, high schools, before you get to college, you really have to have high grading standards, because once you get to college and university, you do get some freedom and you can work on your own and you don't have to show up to class. It is about the final exams and the final work, but you don't get those habits by in elementary school having those standards. You need standards in elementary school and in high school especially. I'm okay with not this policy, but grades being given out based upon final exams. You shouldn't be able to take it multiple times, but it should be based upon the work in college and university, because eventually you're going to have to go into the workforce in the workplace, and you are going to be left alone.
And that's just lying to students, telling them that they're doing great, that they don't have to work hard, that anything they do, they can show up late for class, they can not turn in assignments. That's not how real life works. That's not how you can actually achieve success.
How are you going to not show up for class in high school and elementary school? Like that's absolutely ridiculous. That's a fundamental core value you need for
Well,
life.
elementary school, they're little. Middle school.
But you have to build in those good habits, and that's why school,
That's what school should be. One of the things they teach.
what like I'm really against a lot of what happens in the education system, but so there's certain habits that are built with the American education system that you really do need for life. One is being on time, which you apparently never learned.
I'm just against the whole education system as it is nowadays. I think there's way better ways to do it.
Yeah.
And I'm still a huge advocate for either homeschooling or pod schooling or changing the way we see learning.
Well,
for
and
younger children especially.
And I think the United States right now, a lot of people are highly critical of the United States, how they're defunding a lot of the education system. They're trying to cut out the rot, and they are actually looking at alternative ways of education. And there is a ton of alternative models currently available in Florida and other places around the nation. I think when they start to refund the education system, they are going to have a fundamental reimagining of how children are educated, because the traditional model isn't going to work in the age of AI and things like this.
Mm-hmm. And I can go into like an hour-long diatribe about the specifics, but I'll save it for my show.
Okay, let's go into James O'Keefe here. And surprisingly, this is the first clip I got of the day.
So, breaking, the legendary James O'Keefe just exposed David Hogg of admitting Jill Biden's COS secretly ran Biden's White House. Once again, the conspiracy theorists have been proven right. People in the comments of this specific post were saying, oh, but James O'Keefe is no longer involved with Project Veritas. Yes, he is. He made an announcement a few days ago, I believe.
Yeah, and it was I think it was a week and a half ago, he stood in front of the Project Veritas sign and people were wondering what was going to happen. He said he had an announcement. He's taken it back over now.
Mm-hmm.
So
he was kicked out initially.
Yeah, that was his own company. So it was a severe hostile takeover of a company. Mm-hmm. Let's play this clip. And this is just kind of confirming what everybody already know. Joe Biden wasn't running in that office. But, I mean, can there be charges brought against Joe Biden and things like this? I don't know.
One question for me is like, how corrupt is the DNC if so many people knew, or few people knew about Biden, well, the president of the United States?
I mean, I think the fact of the matter is the DNC is always going to be like a campaign arm of the president, ultimately. The bigger issue is like the inner circle that was around Biden. That's it.
And I can't stress to you enough.
Like Joe Biden's chief of staff, like had an enormous amount of power.
Joe Biden?
Joe Biden's chief of staff.
That was like an open secret at the level. Like, I would avoid him. Like, he was scary.
What was his name?
Anthony Trump.
I've never seen him.
Exactly.
What do you mean?
He's just like a shadowy, like, Wizard of Oz type figure. That's what made him so, like, I knew how he looked, but I'm like, the general public wouldn't know how this man looked. But he wielded an enormous amount of power, and I can't stress to you how much power he had at the White House.
Okay, that's good. And if you do want to see the full clips and things like that, go to Project Veritas, I guess it's on there, we're saying?
Mm-hmm. ProjectVeritas.com/brave.
Okay, and that was from James O'Keefe. He is one of the true undercover journalists doing the work on the ground. What I was also going to say is there's been a lot of things coming out on who was actually controlling Joe Biden over the last few weeks. And it's really these shadowy figures just like him. There were two other figures. I can't currently remember their name, but it was people that nobody was kind of hearing about. And that's kind of what you would expect. If you are really wielding power in Washington, you don't want to be one of the front people. Okay, let's go into Elon Musk. And this story emerged last night during your live stream. So we did talk about it last night, but...
Yeah, so Elon Musk leaves White House but says Doge will continue. Elon Musk has said he is leaving the Trump administration after helping lead a tumultuous drive to shrink the size of U.S. government that saw thousands of federal jobs axed. This is from the BBC, so it's going to be in a complaining manner that they write about this. But in a post on his social media platform X, the world's richest man thanked Trump for the opportunity to help him run the Department of Government Efficiency, known as Doge. The White House began offboarding Musk as a special government employee on Wednesday night, BBC understands. His role was temporary and his exit is not unexpected, but comes a day after Musk criticized the legislative centerpiece of Trump's agenda. As my scheduled time as a special government employee comes to an end, I would like to thank President Trump for the opportunity to reduce wasteful spending.
Yeah, and they're trying to frame this as a rift between Musk and Trump, that Musk cut a bunch of spending and then Trump overspent and that Musk is mad. I think Musk needs to go back to his regular businesses. He said he was going to go in a few months anyway. He wants to have kind of a clean break where it maybe looks like a little bit of a rift. This could be orchestrated. He needs to stop the burning of Teslas and things like that. So it's interesting. Did you have anything you wanted to say about this?
Well, last night you did mention that probably like they're making it seem as it's a complete, break, but he'll still be involved, but not so publicly, so they can actually do things.
Yeah, and I think it's a huge conflict of interest if he's currently in the government and he's making business deals. So Trump had made a lot of introductions, especially in the Middle East. And he brought Elon Musk along with him. So I think Elon Musk wants to have a clean break for Doge so he can go organize these deals behind the scenes. And I think he's going to act as a business middleman for the Trump administration. So it'll be very interesting to kind of see Musk's movements over the next 12 months. Mm-hmm. And if he does reemerge during the midterms.
Yes.
So, but Musk also provided a shield for Donald Trump. It was the bad cop to Donald Trump's good cop. Like the media would still talk bad about Trump, but it was almost impossible to do it for both. Otherwise, the media just looked overzealous. So everything Musk was doing, that's what they really went after. And Trump was really let off the hook for the first 100 days. They're going to really hone in on Trump now in the media, I would expect. But I also think that's why he's going to stand firm on this lawsuit, this $20 billion lawsuit with Paramount. He wants to send a message to everybody else. Mm-hmm. Okay, we can go into the next story now, which was Slovakia.
Yeah. Slovak Central Bank Governor Kazimir guilty of corruption, court rules. The specialized criminal court in Slovakia ruled Kazimir must pay a €200,000, $225,000 fine or face a 1-year prison sentence, Judge Milan Zuzarek said. The verdict can be appealed and does not force Kazimir out of office.
Yeah, and I think central banks have probably more power than governments. Most governments do around the world, and there should be huge penalties. I'm talking life sentences for corruption within central banks. They need to clean up these central banks. These central banks are trying to currently bring in CBDCs, and they want to manipulate massive control over different populations, especially in the EU. It's going to be very interesting what happens with these digital currency wars and things like this. The EU is on the verge of financial collapse because of not just central bankers like this, but I'm sure there are dozens and dozens of these guys behind the scenes. Did you have anything to say about this? Okay, let's go into, I kind of just wanted to highlight it because I'm expecting a lot more dirt to come out on different central banking organizations, especially in Europe. And the last clip of the day is going to be Pierre Poilievre. He was the opposition of Canada in the last election, and he would have been the right choice, even though he was really liberal light. It's good to see that he's still going after him. I got to get my headphone here. Let's play the clip, and then we'll talk about it.
If Mr. Carney really wants to get things done, he's certainly not in a hurry to do it. These things are going to take a long time, even if he acts immediately. And he's talking about waiting till fall before any legislation will be passed. And he's only going in half measures. So I'll give you an example. The most direct path for a pipeline to Tidewater is to Northwest BC, but there's a tanker ban in the law. So nobody is going to start planning to build a pipeline west as long as that ban is in place. So he's got to get rid of that ban, or else we will not have a pipeline to the west coast. So where is he going to send it then? Is he going to send it up to the Arctic, to Hudson's Bay, through Quebec to New Brunswick? Well, he won't say. Yesterday, he didn't mention oil, gas, or pipelines once. Look, if you want to get things built, you need to pass very tangible changes. Very simple. You have to get rid of the industrial carbon tax, the energy cap, the West Coast shipping ban, C-69. That is how we're going to get things built. We need to unlock our incredible resources so that our trades workers get $200,000 a year jobs that will make them all better off. That's what we want. And we can be independent.
Okay, and switch to my main camera. Just switch more. when we start doing things. Okay, and this was a kind of a big statement because Carney has been really, he's gone on vacation and he says this is a national emergency. The United States is trying to take him over, but his actions aren't really saying as much. So like they need to invest in the natural resources of Canada. Carney's completely against that because he's a green energy zealot. Where was I going to go with this? Would you have anything to say about this? Let me think for a moment.
Well, Canada has been, starting with the green taxes and everything they've been trying to do to help the environment. But then with Carney coming in, he's pretty much two-facing it because he does have, for example, investments in oil pipelines, etc., around the world. But then in Canada, he wants to not use those resources that it would increase and better the lives of a lot of people, and instead block every single thing that could help Canada.
Well, I remember what I was going to say now, and that was the conservative plan was to take down the interprovincial taxes, which was basically like a tariff. Each individual provinces were basically having something like a tariff on every other province. So you couldn't even openly trade within Canada. This was the conservative plan. Carney's now adopted this talking point. He wants to take down all interprovincial taxes in Canada. It's going to be interesting when this goes to a vote, maybe later this week or next week, because the Conservatives can't really vote against it because they're the ones that suggested it. So I think the Conservatives are hoping that he pairs it with a bunch of other things in the bill so they can say they're going against the other things in the bill, because it's going to be hard to say they're against the interprovincial taxes. That is one big thing that really holds Canada back, and it has for decades. And it's almost like they're operating their internal economic system of Canada in a dark age. Okay, well, that's it for today. Thanks for everybody for tuning in. I'll be back here tonight at 9:15 Central Time with Nat and the Guy Live. Nat's got our own show at 8 p.m. Central Time on Nat and the Guy in Espanol. If you haven't liked and subscribed, please do so. I'm almost to 100 subscribers. Yeah.
Thank you.
Adios.
We'll see you in a bit.